Hello, good morning, good evening.
Morning.
I'm going to give people just a couple minutes to get joined up, and we've asked a couple of additional extra people to come today to give some status on some issues.
Good, very early morning.
It's dark out.
Yeah, it could be worse. You could be in the European Union where they're trying to push legislation which would make it so that in North Germany the sun would rise at 10 in December. 10 in the morning.
I like the idea of getting rid of daylight savings time switches, but it's...
Yeah, but why not? Yeah.
Hey, folks, join in. I'm going to give things another minute or so for a couple more people to join. I'm looking for 3 people in particular. And actually, there's somebody who's a random string of characters. I'm not sure who that is.
Oh, damn, that thing didn't even use that again.
Yeah. There we go. So in particular, I was hoping we would have Klaus Ma from China, and I hadn't actually heard back. I'd pinged them yesterday. It was their nighttime, but Wojtek and Shyam from the SIG scalability team with Google in Poland. So I'm just gotta scrub through a couple of issues then really quick to see if we have any info from them.
I'm sorry, Tim, I can go through something if you like. I just have no
there was just one issue to look at, and actually ahead of that, I just pulled up test grid also, and we have green test results from them, but the issue they mentioned something was flaky. So I'm gonna guess we don't get them since we have green on the board. All right, well, it's 3 past. I'll go ahead and get started. And Dims has his hand up, but I saw that you commented on that issue. We'll get to it in a sec. Okay. It is Tuesday, September 18th. This is the Release 112 Burndown meeting in the final week now. 1 week to go. I am Tim Pepper, the lead for the 112 release. This meeting will be recorded. It'll be up on YouTube just after we're finished here. And please behave awesomely and in accordance with our code of conduct. I think it's going to be a quick meeting today, actually. We're getting closer on things. So the just in case anybody doesn't have it, I will paste the agenda doc in the Zoom. So I went ahead and made the call yesterday to delay the release a couple days. Basically, I was feeling like it was kind of 50-50 whether we'd be ready come Monday, or really 50-50 whether we'd be ready come Friday and see good test results still on Monday. And that's just not quite enough roadmap to feel confident that we would actually release on Tuesday. So delaying to Thursday gives us time to finish things hopefully this week, recoup at the beginning of next week, get any absolute last minute things in and test results still, and make the release call on Thursday. So that is where we are. And I'll just dump into the CI signal then. I've kind of changed up the doc to have just a couple of buckets. We've got maybe 3 to 5 things we're looking at. So the first one is scalability. So Dim, since you're raising your hand.
Yeah, you were looking for something, so I was
trying to help you there. That's all.
Yep.
So the build number 214 on that GC performance scale performance is green, and this typically takes almost 16, 18 hours approximately. So the previous run failed because of flakiness, and looking through the code, it seemed like a cache wasn't initialized, and I went through the previous logs, and I hadn't seen this specific flakiness before. But then what seems to be happening is the retry logic bails out really early when there's a problem, because it's not checking for the condition where the cache is empty and cache is being loaded, rather. So I threw up a patch, but then Wojtek said, let's see if it actually happens again. So we'll wait for that and see if we need to use this patch. I actually closed out the patch. We can resurrect it if needed.
Okay.
So that was basically, the update on that scaling problem.
In the last 4 runs, we have 2 that passed, 2 that failed on that particular test. So not a great flake rate.
Right. So we'll still have, by the time Monday turns around, we'll still have another 5 runs, I guess, at least.
Yeah.
So we should be better. We should have a better signal by then. But then if you look at the previous runs, we never had there's one sequence where there were 4 greens in a row. Other than that, it's always been on and off.
Yeah, it's worse than 50%.
Right.
It looks like in the history that we have going back 2 months.
Right. So if you do at least 3 runs, 2 or 3 runs consecutively, we should be good.
All right, so we'll continue to watch that space, and I will ping for an update. Well, I guess at this point we're pretty much into business day. So if we didn't get Wojtek and Sham, then, and I know they were up late a couple of prior nights, so they may have called it a day earlier since they had things looking better. So I will ping them for a status update then. And then I'd also pinged Klaus, but I just wanted to hear from him that he was confident that we had squared away all of the corner issues with the taint nodes by condition. But I chatted with him briefly yesterday on Slack, and he did affirm that he was comfortable with where things were. So hopefully that's not still an issue there. All right, so I'll move on to DNS. So we've had a series of issues. There was a config map issue with DNS. There was an issue that was determined to be GKE specific. There was the core DNS scalability issue. So those 3 things we believe to have all been fixed, but there is still another issue, and I had sort of thought it might be related to the GKE failure. So Mohammed opened issue 67600 this morning. So it's a DNS config map federation, should be able to change federation configuration. And that is visible on SIG release master blocking in the GCI GCE serial. Now, I had kind of wondered whether that was related to the anything to do with this GKE thing that was being changed. Now, I don't know if that was specific to GKE or somewhere else in the network or what, because we don't get to see that stuff. And the fix for that only merged at midnight, and the latest run then in other test buckets went green this morning. This one's latest build is running and only started at 4 a.m. The prior had been before the fix merged. Gwen, you have your hand up? Or no? Okay. So I'm still curious if those are related, but we do have an issue open to track it. And then that brings up the other issue. The Google one is fixed, and the test just went green a little bit ago that was failing. So that is actually positive. Now, sadly, as of actually, no, that's different. It shows last. So there's also an AWS failure in Before Suite. I thought this was a different one, but it shows that it's older. So I need to go look at that again. So the next bucket is storage. We've had a couple things flying by, and each one successfully is getting better. Right now, I think there's one thing that's consistently failing on storage around entry volumes, and the SIG was looking at it closely yesterday. There's a PR that had been under review. It looks like a relatively complicated review. This isn't a super huge code fix. I mean, 29 lines of code, but there's a few questions that needed a little more figuring out. So I'm hopeful that this one gets maybe a bit of iteration today and merges this evening. Then a really interesting thing come up. So this morning, glancing at open PRs, there's a new one on the top of the queue that's linked there, PR 68767. And this is a failure that came up in OpenShift. Based on the version of OpenShift, I believe this is Kubernetes 1.10 where the test failure happened, but it's an issue on master, and it looks like a critical fix. And the fascinating thing, so this is fix strain for evicting terminal DS pods and pods with local storage. DS is daemon set, and the description describes some really slow performance cases where draining a node could be really, really slow. And we've had a set of tests that have been a little flaky in that regard, but if this, I can't put a lot of hope in that this is going to fix something magically great for us right now if it's been around since 1.10. So watching that space, it's a relatively large patch, so we'll see what happens there. It may also be something for saying, let's actually hold this off since it's been around a while. And Gwen?
So I remember running into this issue actually at work, where draining nodes was just kind of this thing that was supposed to be a feature but didn't actually work. This looks like it's actually just kind of enabling that. I don't know if it's causing issues in the related tests. Of course, it might, but what I'm saying is this sounds like something. I don't know why somebody added the milestone to it, which is why I'm sort of tentatively hopeful that it's relevant to our issues. But at the same time, this is, like you said, this is something that's been around for a while and it never really worked. So making it work is nice.
I would like to believe this might be something quite useful to us. At the same time, it comes in a period where we have risk to mitigate, whether this thing coming in. And skeptical, cynical part of my brain says OpenShift's next release that shifts over to Kubernetes 1.11 is supposed to be finishing up test in GA or something somewhere around now based on a little bit of Googling I did on the web. And to get an urgent fix into 1.11, which they would need, not that they couldn't carry the patch themselves, the patch needs to go into master so that it can be cherry picked. And I noticed that this has been marked for cherry pick as of just a few minutes ago into 1.11. So I'm partly wondering if it's just that, but I'll follow up on this today to better understand what's up with it. Let's see, so that was storage. And then we have the other big one, the horizontal pod autoscaler. I'm inclined to think this could be a larger part of the things we're looking at right now. So the tests, or the PR that Solly had pushed for that yesterday, it got hung up after a bit in our test CI issues with the GKE test that was flaking 90% of the time or something. So it actually finally got its test passes just a couple hours ago, I think, and is pending merge right now. So hopefully that gets in here and we're able to see some improvements from that. This one I think could be implicated in a lot of the odd slowness we're seeing. So again, a watch this space for the day. The final bucket, the fifth one, that's sort of a question. We've had a bunch of upgrade test failures in test grid, and they're a little ambiguous in that they seem related to some of these other things. So if these other things merge, we'll be able to more conclusively say related, not related. So still watching that space. Somebody has added a networking issue. Oh, maybe that was that? Oh, that was me. That was me last night. Yes, there's a networking issue. In the SIG fields, it needs to be blocking. So that is showing up in their CI, but not in blocking CI. So I threw it in the CI signal here. They have something, a fix in flight. So that's kind of our main CI related issues. It looked, Gwen, like you maybe had a bit of a chance to scrub through issues. Or
no.
not? Okay.
So, yay, Nico.
Okay.
I'm just following up on what he did. Yeah, but there isn't really a whole lot of change since yesterday. Except we closed an issue, which is yay. That one's really the PR that was just kind of sitting and people were like, yeah, maybe we should merge this. It finally closed.
The metric spew one.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have, I think that was the one that was, yeah, there was a super fragile solution, and they decided to go with, I think they decided to go with that for this release, and then do a more long-term, better solution. Yep.
Okay.
That's what happened. So we should be good on that. I'm going to delete that. So that does mean that we have only 3 issues as of right now that are not also failing tests, I believe. I'll go over the numbers and double check.
Okay. So I think with that, I'm going to call it a meeting unless anybody else has major things they want to bring up. Usually at this point, we had a long meeting yesterday just because we were trying to, we had a fair amount of discussion around delay the release or not. But with that call made and down to the short list of stuff, for the duration here, most likely the call is going to be a targeted 15, 20, 30 minutes at most, looking at a very short list of issues.
So one bucket we need to start, I guess, in this is images that still need to be cut. There is kubedns hasn't been cut yet, and the IPVS image has to be, the network failure. I think you mentioned just now the IPVS stuff. So images have to be cut for that, and then we need to do the PRs, updates, and then merge them. So I think we need to track them somehow.
So we've got an issue there, obviously, for the IPVS one. The kubedns has an issue, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It has a PR.
A PR, okay.
It has an older PR which updates some of those version numbers, but we have to cut a new version of the image and then update the PR to the new number.
And is that one of our milestone mark PRs right now?
I believe yes, as far as I know.
I feel like I wasn't remembering looking at it as I looked through the list. Oh, it is, and it's I was not remembering it because I looked at it probably yesterday and was like, oh yeah, that's definitely not one we're kicking out, because yesterday we're looking from the which of these can we kick out perspective. Okay. Yeah, I will note those and make sure we're pushing on those. One other thing to mention too is a PR should be coming later today or else tomorrow. After we cut the release, the KubeADM folks will make a change around the version that, or cut the release. Today we're cutting the RC release. I was kind of waiting to see the improvements on test grid, but since we're seeing improvements, I would expect that we will cut that. That enables KubeADM folks to make some changes to version strings in their code.
I was going to say, Dims, I'm sorry, I haven't looked at those PRs you
pinged me on yesterday yet. That's
No
on my
worries.
task list for today. I haven't kicked those out yet.
I glanced through a couple of them and went ahead and put a comment on them just saying like, hey, SIG leads, can we kick this out? And since all of them have been stale, that gives another 24 hours of no response. Okay, goodbye. Clearing the table. We are finishing this release. Okay, I will add the image tracking stuff, and I'll probably just make a tighter, shorter agenda for tomorrow and the subsequent days that just has these couple things that we're looking at just so we can really focus in on them. All right, folks, thank you. We will meet again. Make sure I say this right since the times vary. Tomorrow's meeting is 9 a.m. Pacific, so map to your local time zone. And it should, again, be relatively quick. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Any questions or comments from the crew here?
Thanks for waking up so early.
Trying to make things spread, and we've actually gotten a nice set of folks on from other time zones, and I'll put a shout out to Maria, who's there in a European time zone. She's been increasingly active. This cycle has been attending these meetings weekly, and based on her code contributions, I think today she's going to become an org member.
Nice.
Fingers crossed.
Woo!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting on that happy note, and have a great rest of your day or a great start of your day, depending on where you are, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.